So, we know how to put things on our canvas by now. And that's fun. And we've done a little bit of interaction, right? So our job is done. No. I don't think that was the whole point of QML. And all of this new technology is not about simply statically showing things on screen. It's about making things move and creating experiences. You've noticed that a few years ago we were talking all about, the buzzword was user interface and user interface design, and these days everybody's talking about user experience. That's a new buzzword. And because that's the thing, it's about the experience, and the experience is everything. It's a user interface, it's what you see, it's how you interact, and the interaction bit implies a lot of motion, a lot of transitions, a lot of things that need to be taken care of, and that's mostly a designer's work, and here, implemented by developers sometimes or not, but the actual experimentation is something that I believe that designers should experiment and try and make it work. So this model is about that, about making things move. But before we go into there, we just want to clarify a little bit more about the positioning of elements and why is this somehow important in the notions of making things move. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about Qt Quick and JavaScript, how to extract, how to use JavaScript inside your QML files, and how to extract, for example, little bits of code from your QML into other files and reusing them along the way. So first, let's go a little bit about positioning elements. We have this another example. Oh, sorry, I have to load new examples. This might be interesting for designers to see how one does that. Model 2, examples, there's a file here, name project, and there it is, with all the files inside here. So in this case, it's basic positioners. So what is it? It's something real simple. It's our spaceship now in the background, and the definition of the position is absolute. And I guess that the reason they want to show us this slide is to remind us all that it's in reference to the item, the root item, and to the 0. And the 0 is the top right corner. So our 0 is here because we define here 400 by 400. So 400 by 400. And here we define it statically to the 0 position. So another way of describing the position is relative, and relative is anchors. And we've been showing you anchors because we have no real way of doing things without showing them. And anchors are something that is quite useful because they allow us to bind positions of elements between themselves, between each other. And it can be it's handy because sometimes if you do movement, motion, and you want to adapt, and someone was asking me about how do we do user interfaces for several types of screens that grow or are not exactly the same size, that you don't know where they look. And anchors is a very good way of dealing with those sort of problems, where you define how things will move in relation to each other. The only thing that I would advise you against with anchors is, I know intuitively, when I was learning anchors, I had one notion that came to me when I remember about my early design days, early as in civil engineer design, and even worse, mechanical engineer stuff that I learned. And when you do designs, those types of designs is very schematic designs. There's one golden rule, is that you don't specify a measure twice. There's no overlapping of specification of measures. I always thought that was a countermeasure for errors. Like, if you do something wrong, nobody will get it because you only did it once, so it's right. But it's the same thing here. If you do anchors, just be aware that you shouldn't anchor everything to everything, because if you start scaling, it might end up in a mess. So everything only anchors should only be defined once to position one element. Okay. Okay. Now the example they show us here.
We have seen. I think we have already seen a lot of anchors, so you already know how to use them.
Yeah, I just wanted to show them inside the designer, because I went to a really advanced one. Anchors, positioners. Here it is. Okay, just want to show you inside the designer, and it becomes easy and it was easy for me. Let me, for example, create a new object here, and you guys can see it. So now I created a copy of our element. And it's easy to create anchors. For example, let me parent this item right to the spaceship, and the top to the spaceship as well, and remove the margins. Okay, so see, you can do it all in the visual thing there. Something is wrong, right? Oh, it's the offsets. No. Okay, something like that. Oh, it's the X. So another example here of anchors, and it's to call for a little problem with anchors and also with bindings is more. So first let me show you the anchoring. Seems easy enough, right? Let's go into the designer and see something. Where is this? You see this space here? There's a space there between this item and our spaceship.
You should show it.
Yeah. You see this space here? Let me show you the code, and maybe you guys have some idea where that space is coming from. Because there's a right margin, 100, but there's no top margin. Where is that space coming from? Ideas? Yes? The scaling. The scaling is something that you should be aware of. The bindings of anchors and positioning is done before the scaling. So when you start scaling stuff, the bindings will be applied before, and then the scaling occurs, for example. And scale, if I wanted to do exactly how they want this to look, I would have to go here and see this little thing here. It tells me from which point the scaling is done. And here I selected the top. But if I create a new object and anchor it to my spaceship, it will show up in the position where the unscaled ship is, and not the scaled one. So scaling is something that you should be aware of, because every time you do scaling, the design won't take that into account. If you want to do scaling and use anchoring, I would advise you to specify the size of the thing that you want in the final. Do a little bit math, play with the width and the height, and not with the scaling. Okay? Scaling is...
Yeah, there's a good reason for that. If you imagine a button in your application, and when the user press the button, you want to animate them with, by scaling it up and down a little. If the anchoring system was done after the scaling, you'll have the whole screen scaling everywhere. With this solution, you have just the button, which is scaling.
And anchoring remains. So, another thing to mention here, I think it's important. Okay, so now let's move on to the fun stuff, making things move. And of course, we will not speak about that immediately, or we'll go to it in a slightly different way. States. This is, when I was preparing this, is kind of weird to explain states. Even the developers have problems explaining states and state. What?
How many people know state and state machine here? Okay, no problem.
My explanation has zero to do with the way you think about states. So I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, states to us is pages. Final stages of what we want it to be. It's the begin and the end, or something in between. And I have a hard time explaining stages, but it's pretty easy to show them. Let me find where is our basic image? Yeah, so as easy as it gets. Our basic ship, see? So I'm going to create a new state. And then state is something where I want this ship to go. So I just press there, plus, and it creates a new state. And in this new state, I want this ship to be here. So we have one state and another state. It's not aligned. Not aligned.
Come on, move on.
It wasn't perfect.
Pixel perfection.
And that's it. And now all we need to do is so now all we need to do is switch states, because right now it doesn't do anything, right? We haven't decided on how this thing moves, and this is what we'll talk about. So, okay, so we have a way of creating different final positions, and that's the thing.
There's one thing particular. Nuno created two different states, the first one and the second one. But if you look at the code, there's only one state.
Oh, yes.
Because the first state is the initial state. So it's where is the ship when you remove all the code here.
Okay, so you can create as many states as you need for an object. So let's create another state there.
What do you do?
See, can create many states, as many as we want, and we can delete them as well. And we can rename them. Even though renaming sometimes is hard.
So as you can see, the designer is really, the QML designer is really nice for designers also. Because they can create visually the different states we are interested in.
Okay, so as I said, the purpose of this is it's easy to change from one state to the other. And how do you change? You define something as a mouse area, something where you lead to interaction. The actual action is stating that the my item state, and my item is the, oh, attention. You need to have a name on the top, on the root level, because it's the name for, it's where the state is going to happen. I have a wrong thing here. I need to have an ID here. ID. So now I can change the state of the ID. And, well, let's copy this snippet of code or redo it and see if it happens. So all I'm going to do is, for starter call, create here a...
So what we want to do is when we click on the application, we just want to switch from one state to the other one.
Item.
What? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, you're right. I don't need the item. I just need the mouse area. Oh, sorry. I'm going to do it differently because I'm trying to do this as I do it usually. So all I'll do is I'll find a mouse area, drag it here, specify. Oh, the layout doesn't work like I want to. Up again.
Oh yes, that's a trap when you use the designer, the QML designer.
Be aware in which state you are. The layout was not working because I was in the state mode, and I need to be in the base mode to put my mouse area here, and then fill the top. But it was binded. See. It was binded to the spaceship, and now I'm going to move it to my state. Let's see if everything's fine. Yeah. Okay, so a lot of anchors here. Don't care. This is the same thing as anchors field parent. And then on click. Change to state.
So now what we are going to do is to change the current state of the my state item.
See a typo. I'm great at typos. And now, when I press play and when I click here, nothing happens. Great.
Yeah, you have a left and right margin.
Sorry?
You have a left and right margin.
Let's hope it works. It works. Once. Okay.
And how do you do if you want to go to the other state?
There's one thing I can. Sorry.
How would you do?
How you do it?
By clicking a second time, you want to go back to the initial state.
A new state? Sorry?
Go to the section state, and put the click event there to send it back.
No. He was saying that you basically you create a sort of mouse area here with an.
In the second state, no, that. Or you could simply ask for a question here. you could do something like this. You could ask a question.
Am I in state? In set? What's
So that's the wonderful name I created for my state.
sate?
Sate.
Sate.
So basically I'm asking here, are you sate? And if you are sate, then you become the other guy. And if you're not,
So remember, QML is declarative. So you are writing exactly what you want.
okay.
There's no secret, no magic here.
Oh.
There's a little bit of magic.
And the result, you've seen the result. Well, I didn't make the press button. We'll show you later. The press button is just an image with the mouse area and press. You could press and it does. But let me show you the objective. Like that's not very exciting, right? Not very exciting. So let's go into spaceship move. And obviously they don't. I need to show you a video. Fun.
So for the moment, in Module 2, we talk about animation and making things move, but right now we don't do any of this.
So as you can
So
see,
the goal is really to make your
spaceship click, do something nice,
Yeah.
right?
So the goal is really to make your interface move, be fluid, be natural. So now that we have our states, what we can do is
Create something that they name transitions. And transitions are the way it goes from one state to the other. And it's something like this. Let's try it on our little bit of code. So transitions, and then you specify the transition. The from, in this case, let's transition from nothing into
sate.
sate. Sounds nice. And then we do something as a number animation. We'll talk a little bit about the different types of animation. Number animation is just one type of animation, and it basically changes numbers. Number animation. And now we state the properties that we are going to change in this number animation. So in this case, the X and Y. So, and then there's a little bit of magic here. What's the magic? It's,
Control Alt space.
just second mouse click there, and you get this little thingy here, and and it shows the type of animation. Right now it's linear, which means it starts with 0 velocity, goes to constant velocity and stops. So this doesn't sound very natural. So where's the subtype? In and out. And now, not quite. What's going on here?
Yeah, there's something wrong.
In and out. And then cubic should be enough.
Just close it and reopen it.
Yes. Let's see what we've done. Nicer, right? But it just works again once.
So If you are like me and you just see a spaceship going from there to there, that's okay. But the nice thing is the designer is able to tweak the animation like he really wants. So change the velocity, change the duration, etc., etc. And he can do it on the file itself.
Exactly. And I'm not liking my animation, so I was playing with it already. So now you should ask me, how do I transition back? Because right now it's going in one direction. What if I want to go in the other direction? Well, one of the ways would be for me to remove the to and from. And this becomes a default transition. Every time anything will change in our thing, it will behave in this manner. So let's see. So if I've just deleted it, then in theory, it should go like this here and like that. Okay? Make sense? Another way would be what?
To make the transition reversible.
He taught me that yesterday. So, how do you state that?
Reversible. R-E.
Reversible equals true.
True.
And display. So what happens now is that it goes from that state to the other, and it works on the other way around. So, great. I still don't like my animation.
Oh, come on. But that's really interesting because as a developer, you are going maybe to write the transition. But then you can go back to the designer and he can tweak the transition like he really wants it to be.
Yeah, spend 3 hours making it perfect.
Pixel perfect.
So I think we've talked about this, the from and to. Define the target, the properties, and the easing type. So, and there are several types of animation. We've been over number animation. Number animation is changing a number. So it's interpolating every number from one state to the other. And in the property that we've defined in our animation, it was applying a number animation with the easing curve we defined to the x and y value. Parallel animation. Parallel animation is a way, and it's sequential animation in a way, we are going to explain those a little bit further. Pause and rotate animation. So the animation I've talked about. Parallel. There's two examples, but I think there's two videos here that I should show you, but I think it's kind of obvious. The parallel animation, those two animations there, the number inside the parallel animation will go at the same time. And the sequential animation, it will be first one and then the other. Sequential and parallel. And it might look as it's an overkill to create those things, but last year for this, I created a very fancy slideshow, kind of. And the slideshow was rolled on in QML, and the entire QML, it was quite large, was parallel and sequential animations binded together, grouped together with pauses in the middle. So it's kind of creating a storyline. And parallel and sequential animations help you create those storylines that sometimes are needed to, for example, on the other training, there's a very good example where they make a ball drop and bounce, and all of that done with parallel, sequential animations, rotations, and so on. There's a rotation animation. Rotation animation is very much like the number animation. And one that I would really like to talk a little bit about is the behavior. Behavior is the animation I use the most by far. It's a different way of animating stuff. It's saying it's binded to its object, and like it says here, behavior on y for that rectangle is But let me, instead of trying to show you here, let me just try to do the same exact thing here.
So what we have done so far is to put the animation inside the transition. Okay?
Now I'm going to,
Yeah, the behavior is different.
so now I'm going to remove all of the states and
No,
transitions.
you still need the states.
No, I don't need the states. You'll see what I'm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm going to remove the transitions. There are several ways of doing this. Just keeping the number animation here. I'm going to copy this. Now I'm going to remove the transitions stuff. Now in my spaceship, I create a behavior. X. Paste. And now I don't specify the property because I already specify the property there. X. And the only thing that is kind of quirky about behavior is that every property needs to be defined for each time. So I couldn't specify behavior on X on Y. I need to do it like this. So in theory, it should work.
No, you have some curly braces problem.
Where?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, that's the problem about.
So you need one here.
The designers
boy.
making code is that I end up in this kind of problems all the time. So most of the time I'm removing and putting brackets all over the place. Okay. We still need developers. So, and the result is exactly the same, but now with something that is bounded to the element, and I don't need to specify it. The cool thing about it is that if I create, for example, new states now, where I would create more spaceships, they would all work in this manner. Every time their position was changed via states or via, for example, on click on a second button, I would click and specifically change the position of that spaceship. It would move in the way that it moved. Nice song. We lost someone. Okay. Git quick and JavaScript are good friends. Want to do this part?
Oh, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about code now. So you have seen how to put elements on your screen, how to animate them. The nice thing with QML is that QML and JavaScript are working together, which means that everything after a property is JavaScript code. We have already done this a lot. For example, when we have done the scroll bar, we have computed the position of the scroll bar. And we have done this using JavaScript. Yeah, it was just minus
And
plus, but it was JavaScript. You can do more complex things, and you can do something like this. And it's JavaScript, but it's still using binding. So the source property here is still bound to the pressed one, which is nice. You can also create your own JavaScript method inside your QML file. So it's done like any. How many people know JavaScript here? Okay, perfect. So it's working like a JavaScript file. And you can also put your JavaScript method in a JavaScript file and import it inside your QML file. And it is done with the import keyword, which means that you can share JavaScript methods between different files. One thing you should be careful about is that the variable inside, if you have a global variable inside random.js, this variable is not shared between the different files. So the scope is always the QML file. It's not your application. So be careful about that. There are ways to have a global variable. But question? No? Okay. So that's it for JavaScript. You can create methods. You can share them between different QML files. And you can also use JavaScript for every properties here. And what would be also interesting is to be able to share QML code between different files, right? For example, somebody talked about a button. You create a button and you want to use it in different screens.
Yes.
And that's what components are all about. Want to do?
Okay. So yeah, I'm sure you've seen on the drawings they shown there the button part, and the button itself, it's something like this. It's it has an image, a proper string, text, and text label, and all of that. So I'm going to try to show you this, and I'm not going to follow exactly what they have here. I'm trying to show something that he taught me the other day.
Yeah, one of the problems of QML is that it's so easy that generally people do copy and paste. And you all know that copy and paste is not a good design pattern.
It's great. It's the fundamental way of doing things. So
you should really avoid doing this. And it's so easy to do that with QML. You really have to take it, to be really careful and force yourself to create components. And we are going to see how to create them.
Let me just remove one item.
Oh, you can rename it.
Yes.
You can rename the ID, and it will create a new one.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
The things you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at this, see if it makes sense. So here we have our spaceship. I don't like... So it randomly, that JavaScript thingy we showed you, it randomly bounces different name states. So every time I press the press button, it jumps from state to state. So the idea here is how do I abstract this little button of ours from this code? So usually the traditional way of a designer doing it is every time I'll need the button, I'll just go here, copy this, and paste it elsewhere. But since I've done a very large project that forces me to use hundreds of buttons and hundreds of almost traditional widget thingies, the code was getting massive, huge, and I would get completely lost on it. So even to me, it became kind of obvious that componentizing things might be a good idea, because I was pasting the code over and over again, and it was really getting hard. Every time I wanted to change a little bit of the behavior of my button, I would have to do it everywhere, and control find can only get you so far. So last day, I've discovered that you can do something amazing, which I knew how to do refactoring, but apparently you can do it like this. And now it abstracted all of that into a new file. So let's see what this does. Amazing, right? And the button now is a new file here, which is called button new, and as all of these things. Now, some might say that this isn't really very, very reusable because it's just the same button I had without any interaction. Say, where was I? Importing JavaScript. Say I want the text that it currently is pressed to be hit me, or hit.
Hit me one more time.
Baby. So a new thing appears here, which is property binding. You need to declare properties. So they can be shared, and you do this via property. And the one I want to change is our text. So the type is a string. And then we declare a name for it. And we could have a default value, but this will not be the case.
Text.
Now, text is a bad name. Tio is a good name. And now here we say that the text is Tio.
Parent.tio.
Yes. I just think Tio. And in our import JavaScript, we now have a new property available for this new element that we've invented, and it's Tio. Interesting enough, it should. See, it works. And I could create a new one, place it. Now I'm going to call me. Enter the positioning. I'm smart, isn't he? Just now press play. And we have two buttons, one enter, one hit me. They do the same thing because they are basically the same button. And they work. Okay.
So to sum up, how are you going to create a reusable component? You just move the code inside another file. And when you use this component, the name of the component is the name of the file. So when when Nuno used the refactoring, it creates a new file named buttonnew.qml. And then you can use it in your file, and you can see there's a button new item
available. Yeah.
Available here.
I copied paste, but that wasn't very nice of me.
The second thing interesting is that all property from the root element in your component, so in button new, all property from the root element are available from the other file.
Yes. Questions? Please have questions.
So that's basically how you create a new class. But it's not a class, it's an item. But that's it. Just a new file. And the name of the class is the name of the file. And you don't have to do anything else.
Okay. So, a few questions. Hopefully, we all know how to answer them. Is there anything there that pops a question mark in your head? Oh, I see that they don't ask about the last one, see? What is a signal? Okay, so
Yeah.
there's one thing that I didn't touch. So you couldn't answer all my questions there. Notice one thing,
There's,
button 2, new.
yeah, we went a little bit too fast, I think, on the component because there are different things we shouldn't do.
Okay, one thing that we shouldn't do, and I actually did this on purpose. Notice, we are importing the random Java file script here on the component. So every component will import it. And it's not very nice, because the button itself is not, this button becomes extremely particular. It's extremely specific for this function here. And the function is to pop up the little bit of JavaScript to give you back the random name state. And much more, a button itself, the thing that is supposed to do is, hey, I'm clicked. Hey, I'm clicked. That's the signal it must propagate. That's the fundamental thing a button does. So we've done something wrong here, is that we let this be as like this. So we need to specify something that is called signals. And the signal is every time something happens here, it will bounce and appear in the upper level. Well, that's how I understand it. So signal, Clee.
Clicked.
Clee, that's a very good name. And here I'll do something like what am I doing wrong?
No, it doesn't.
The parent is not that parent. Because the mouse area is inside the...
No, there's no completion.
Sorry?
There's no completion.
There's no completion for signals. Nice. Like that, right? And
So basically, we forward the unclicked signal from the mouse area to the CLI signal from our root item here.
Don't you have to use the emit function here?
There's no emit in QML. There's no emit.
so only in one of ours.
And if you look at Qt code, if you search for emit, you'll see that emit is defined to nothing. So emit is just something for developers.
Let me just go and grab the line of code
It's a random.
on mouse area, searching the mouse area,
What are you looking for?
mouse area. So on click, we do that. Let's see if,
Yeah, it's an import JavaScript, so you need a random function.
it's imported.
Yeah, but you need random function dot.
Dot?
No. That's where the developer is needed. Here. You need a random function dot random state to call the random. When you import a JavaScript and you put a line like import my JavaScript file as something, to call a method from the JavaScript, you need to call something dot and the method, which.
Okay. See, works.
So two things. We create a signal inside our component. We forward the clicked event to this signal. And then in our main file, we just create a handler, what we call a handler, on the name of the signal, and we do something. So be careful. The signal name is CLI, C-L-I, and then the handler is on and the name of the signal. So on CLI.
Uppercase,
Uppercase, yes.
the second part. Sometimes I got that wrong. See, we have our two buttons. I only define the on click on enter. Only enter works. If I click on end me, because there's no on click thing, doesn't do anything now. Because the button itself, now it doesn't, I haven't called it in the second one. And the button itself is just sending the signal up. If there's nothing up to get it from, it won't work. So now you know what the signal is.
Yeah.
Also use a standard button instead of a self-made button.
So the question is, can you use standard button, like a Q button? You mean? Okay. Unfortunately, there's no widgets in QML for the moment. There's something named Qt component, which is on Migo, I think.
And there's also for Simian, I
Yeah.
think. There's components, and that's the second part of Qt Quick. It's last module here. It's about components. And they have all of the, let's say, traditional widgetry.
It's
still a work in progress.
It's still work in progress, yes. But the goal is to have components like widget, like buttons, like scroll bar, etc., which are following the style of the platform. So normally in Qt 5, maybe not Qt 5.0, but Qt 5.1, you'll have QML component that you can use and which will follow the platform style, exactly like QWidget.
Having done,
Another question? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. In the item you made, you had the text of your button to be bound to the text of the text element.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little on the difference between binding in that way and using the property alias? Advantages and disadvantages.
Okay, can you go back on the code?
alias is for example.
Button new.
Button new?
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you are on the nice thing is in Qt Creator, if you are on an element like this, you can press F2 to go directly to the code. So you have also some kind of navigation in QML file, which is really nice. So you are talking about this property, okay? So this property is sorry. The text of this element is bound to the property TIO, okay? Why do we need to do this? Because
No, I think he's asking why didn't we do alias?
What I meant is there's another way to do that, right? By using an alias. What is the advantage of using an alias instead of binding and vice versa, if any?
I know one. But
okay.
it's for that. Alias is very useful for one thing. When you're declaring a binding in several places, you shouldn't declare, well, the final binding in the same place. We have an example about that, and we talk about that a little bit in the module 3 or 4. Alias makes it possible to create in between, let's call it variables, that deal with that problem. So basically what alias does and can do is that it every time something changes in the property bindings, it applies it to the final one without deleting the other bindings, which is a big problem sometimes. And there's an example here, and in the codes you have, in the handout you have an example of a scroll bar, which with alias properties, which actually doesn't work because the alias is not declaring the proper position, but if it was working, you would be able to drag and then press a button and get the scroller back one position, and the alias is good for that. But we'll talk about that a little bit.
Do you remember
further.
how to create an alias?
Alias is kind of like properties. Let's not talk about alias now, because alias is more to solve that specific problem of concurrent. Sorry.
Okay.
Mouse area on Pinheiro.
Yes.
Should it be the object itself dot clean and not parent? So should it be?
Oh,
Because parent has not a function.
the parent of the mouse area is what? It's
Image.
the image.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking
Yeah, actually, I was in the same problem because I was telling my parent. Yeah, but it doesn't sound, it doesn't look too obvious, but it actually is the parent of mouse area. Okay. We have 14 minutes for the lab.
Yes. Which is nice.
Yeah. So let me show you what the lab is. Please try to see if you can do it. Need to import the labs.
So it's really important that you understand how to create a component and why you should create a component. It makes your code maintainable, which is really important for us. And that's something I think maybe the designer won't do this, but that's something you have to do absolutely as a developer.
Lab 2. Okay, so the objective here is to do this. Just that. Okay? So think about it a little bit. Try to give you 3 minutes to think about it.
3 minutes, 10 seconds.
11, 10.
9. So it's in module 2,
Module 2, open
lab.
Please do not open the solution.
And if you have any question, just ask us.
Lab 2. What does it show? Oh my. E. Go there.
Compared with Qt programming, it's much more work you have to do.
That's interesting. That's interesting. If
What's
The-
the
the mo-
advantage? Is it only recommended if you work together with a designer?
yeah,
Or how is it? When should I use Qt? When should I use?
if you're doing desktop applications, probably better sticking with tradition. If it's to do a traditional desktop application, probably
Qt would be
traditional Qt will be fine.
for
If
mobile and smartphones and so on.
or non-traditional Qt desktop applications. there are many places in traditional desktop where using Qt Quick might make a lot of sense. The moment you want to escape from the traditional widgetry or do something a little bit more custom, or something that is more specific to a certain solution, maybe QML is a good option.
Qt continues to exist. It's not planned to
No.
replace everything in Qt with QML.
No, but it will exist. So, let's try to do this, and I'll try to play them. So first thing, we have in our solution something really basic, which is the button. They've done the button for us, but there's no image. So the first thing that we need is to put an image here. An image, the source. I'm going to get our spaceship. Running out of battery. In the version of Qt Quick I have, it doesn't create that automatically. So when I put the spaceship, it doesn't get scaled. So if we go back to our little demo there. So we have 3 spaceships. Let's try to create them. Let me create a new spaceship. So we have 3 spaceships now. And one is smaller. So, sorry. Let me apply a little bit of scale here. I know that I said it's a bad idea, but I'm lazy. And I'm just doing it really fast. And the other one was slightly smaller, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
It's not okay. It's to be perfect. So that's how we start. And now let's create how we end. So in theory, it seems to me that this one goes here, the other one goes here, and the other one apparently goes faster, so I'd say ends up somewhere here.
So one thing important here in the designer, you start putting all the items on the initial state, and then you create a new state. Move things. Don't forget about it.
So we have created now states. We have a state with state 1. Okay, that's good enough. And all we now need to do is set a transition. Oh, no.
Sorry.
It's
Oh,
working.
mine. Okay.
Mine was working. Transitions from, I'm not going to state the from and to because we want it to go both ways. Clear and number animation.
Targets. Yeah.
And it's very much like the one we did before.
Properties
Where is properties?
without the capital.
Right. And So let's play it and see how it looks.
You need to target.
Target, what's the target? Eeh. What target? Now it's working for some reason. Thousand. What's wrong?
No, you need a target. Target. And image 1, for example. Image 1, the spaceship. So we have created two different states, and then we create a transition, and the transition is
Not working.
oh. Isn't it the Z order?
No? What happened to my image? Oh, it's here, but still.
Can I just look?
No, 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 no.
Number, animation, duration. Okay, there's something wrong here.
Thank God we have people here that we haven't stated anything on click. The button is not doing anything.
Oh,
It's really hard to make animations if nothing is being animated. Okay, so I don't think on click. What's the name of my item?
state. Equal.
Let's do it both ways.
Fast.
Hmm? State 1, right?
No.
No. Okay, in theory.
It's a capital S for the state.
Ooh. Let me remove this target. Okay.
So that's it. As you can see, we have created a new state. We have moved our items, create a transition, and we almost forget to create the transition
From one point
from one state to the other one. Let's do a break now.
Okay.
And after the break, we will talk about list view and grid view and all the
Other
nice views in
Okay.
QML.